go.
Right, we are live here, Lord's Raceway. Just turn my this volume down. It gets me every time. Dayle Brown, CEO of Harness Racing, here doing your consultation tour, I suppose is the best way. I caught up with you very early on in your tenure. I think you'd only been about 2 weeks, and you've had a fair while to take everything in. How's it all going?
Oh, it's going really well, Paul. 2.5 months in now since I started just after Melbourne Cup Day. I think the tour's been a great initiative to be able to get the feedback from the industry. It's a listening tour. So it's about understanding from people what they want to see going forward, what innovation they'd like to see, what's working, what's not working, how can we present our sport to a different audience, how can we engage a different audience, and how we can attract new participants to the sport. And we've also got, Paul, a problem with breeding at the moment. We've got an underbreeding issue. Breeding's been flat for a few years, and now it's probably this season going to be a little bit down. So we think about how we incentivise and give people confidence to breed, so we've got a horse population that's sustainable and will drive a new race program.
With your breeding, we delve in a little bit, me and Marie, and we've actually bred 3 this year, so we're in the good books. There's no problems, and we only got 3 to breed. So costs keep continually rising, and I'm sure everyone wants stake money increases, and I know you said a few things tonight. If they come along to these tours, they'll come. But is there a thought process where we can help people breed more and probably breed a little bit more successfully?
Yeah, I think there's a number of aspects to that. It's about having confidence in the industry is one, and it's about having a race program where people breed horses from certain breeds where they've got the opportunity to race a horse through the age groups, where the series. It's also about looking at incentives for breeding as well. As I said in the speech earlier tonight, that we've always been underpinned by that person who's got 2 or 3 mares in the backyard and loves to breed. How do we incentivise them to start breeding all 3 mares instead of 1, because the cost might be prohibitive? So we've got to look at ways to be able to incentivise and help people be able to breed from their mares again and give them confidence.
One of the great things I did hear from you tonight, like, not everyone breeds a winner and not every horse can win, but with Racing Victoria, or Life After Racing I think it was called, and Hero, some great initiatives, and to give it bigger and better and to get more, I suppose, exposure for the tattooed horse, the harness racing horse.
Yes, Paul. I chaired the Equine Welfare Committee at Racing Victoria for 5 years, and Terry Bailey was on that committee with me, and we had a number of stakeholders, and we grew what was called the Off the Track program, and it's got 55 rehomers, retrainers in Victoria. And the Hero program, it's been run by Tanya McDermott. It's been a successful program over the last 4 to 5 years. We're looking about how we can evolve that program under Tanya's management, to look at how we can bring in maybe some off-the-track trainers to assist in that growth, to give people options to place a horse with someone so it can be retrained and rehomed. There's a bit of a misnomer that the standardbred can't be trained to canter, but we all know that they can be, and the gallops people just have to be educated that can occur. And they've got such a great temperament that they do make good eventing horses.
They definitely do. Anyone knows me out there. I've got a 13-year-old daughter that excels in the jumping stakes, and son of a trump, he's actually going over the jumps at the minute. He's cantering, and she rides a lovely thoroughbred as well. But she comes back after him. She beams as much after son of a trump as what she does after riding Lanka. I mean, I think you're right. It's the horses that are so great and they attract us, and the fact that the 2 codes are combining, I find that actually sensational. Luke Spano spoke tonight about some initiatives going forward with betting turnover and the likes. It's always a bit of a stigma. It's not what I'm about. I don't try not to talk a lot of TAB turnover, but it is definitely something we need to look at and try and increase. Yeah,
we've got the negotiations for the joint venture. They're on their way now. We've been talking to the other 2 codes and to Tabcorp about having a sustainable and viable agreement next time, because the licence is due to expire in 2024. So the discussions are starting now. Whether the licence extension comes forward, we want to be in a position to get the best deal for harness racing Victoria in this state. So we need to ensure that we're underpinned by proper revenue streams and that the sport can grow and be invested in.
For the person like myself, and most of my family, we're not big punters. We don't punt, and Luke alluded to, that's dangerous for our sport. But there's a lot of people just love the sport. Is there other revenue sources or other ways we can actually raise awareness of what a great product we do have? Like, anyone watches this knows how passionate I am, and I think they can see your passion as well. But probably to get that word out there that it's not just a betting sport. I mean, it's a sport where people can fall in love with.
It's a sport that people get engaged with, and we talked about this this evening. It's different to thoroughbreds and it's different to the greyhounds. People, when they get behind a horse in a sulky, you've got them for life. They love it. The double-seater sulky race in Mildura, the engagement you get from it, people just fall in love with the sport. And there are other ways we can underpin the sport from a revenue point of view, like increasing our sponsorship. So we're really working on sponsorship going forward, and that attracts what I call big sponsors by ensuring that our media arm is spread out more broadly. So we've got RSM, which is Radio Sport National, does a great job, 927, but we need to be thinking about digital. We need to be thinking about what young people consume and how we can reach out to them to show them our great sport and get them involved. We've got the New Year's Eve events, which had 8,000 people at Tabcorp Park, a crowd that doesn't normally consume harness racing. They were there and they got engaged in the Mercury 80. They were at the fence yelling and screaming because of the different style of racing. So there's many different ways we can achieve revenue for the sport, and that's what myself and the team are working on.
Mercury 80, traditional, so I'm a traditionalist, I'm a standing start, long distance racing and all the rest. Mercury 80 is taboo. It actually worked. I was super encouraged when you said tonight that it works, but it's not going to be our mainstream product. And I think probably a lot of traditionalists like myself will be probably happy to hear that, I would imagine.
Yeah, the Mercury 80 and those 1,200 metre races, they're an extra product for us. It gives us a point of difference.
Sort of idea.
Yeah, it's a 2020 sort of cricket idea. It gives us an extra point of difference to attract a new crowd. Because as I said earlier, young people have got a short span of attention, and they like to get in and get out quickly, consume. They want to be entertained the whole time. So we've got to think as a sport, how do we confine our race day for the participants as well, that we get in, race quickly, make it an entertainment perspective, engage people, and do it in a time frame which keeps people engaged for the whole period of time, and they go away having a great experience and go, I want to come back to that. So it's a complementary product to what we do now. We're not going to change what we do. As I said earlier, we need to think about when we race, times we race, where we race, and I've said clearly recently in media interviews that we have an opportunity to race and showcase our main events from that mid-November after the Spring Carnival finishes to about March and April, where we've got summer weather, people want to come to trots and have a great night out, and think about where we race, where the holiday crowds are, and think about how we race.
Yeah, and how we market it. One of the things you did say tonight, time slots and different time slots and potential Saturday mornings to early afternoons.
Yeah.
From family-friendly point of view, that's probably not ideal, but that's probably one of those ones where we take a little bit of a haircut and say, well, this is for betting turnover, because it looks like an ideal spot that's waiting for someone to sort of get into that time slot. So, but I mean, family-friendly, a lot of people have things on Saturday, so it's going to be a juggling act to getting people to attend, I suppose.
Yeah, it will be. Interestingly, talking to Neil Bainbridge at Cranbourne, for instance, just floating the idea this morning around that 11 o'clock time frame, 10:45, 11 start to 1:30. He can get a lunchtime crowd there and make it an event. So for him, it's a great opportunity to get people to Cranbourne, because, as you know, from that club's perspective, hard to get people there Friday night because of the traffic.
Yep.
And this Saturday and Sunday.
Don't go on a Thursday, it was even worse.
No, and this is the issue. So Saturday morning for him works. Yeah. So he can get a crowd there and have an event. So they're the things we've got to think about where we place it. So from my view, Shepparton's ideal. Got a great horse population for Saturdays, 10:45 to 11 to 1:30. And we start to just push our product into the start of the gallops in the afternoon, where the punter and the participants from the other sports start consuming the sport, watching it, and they start seeing harness racing. At the moment, they're watching New Zealand gallops, they're watching a bit of international, and sometimes the Hillsville Dogs were on. Yep. But we're going to showcase harness racing in Victoria.
There's also the opportunity, like you look at Charlton, Wedderburn are going to do a sporting venue there as well. So Charlton might have netball going on. And we could have a trot meeting going on at the same time on a Saturday or Sunday even morning. Are they the sort of options that we could look at?
Absolutely. The more we cross-fertilise with other racing codes and other sports, for instance, and I've spoken to the eastern clubs like Yarra Valley and Cranbourne to do more tri-codes, more dual codes like at Yarra Valley, to get us in front of a new audience, get us in front of people who not necessarily go to the racing, but would come for another event and then start looking at the racing.
Yep. Like
a New Year's Eve at Melton. Cranbourne has an Easter weekend show, which they have flea markets, everything there. Why not put a harness racing meeting on so they can come inside and watch the racing as well?
Everything's there and they can just have that complementing it. That's awesome. Participants, there are probably a lot of trains drivers out there saying, what about us and all the rest. Great to hear welfare is high on the agenda, and I think that's incredibly important that we look after the participants, that's for sure.
It's the first time we've probably talked about it seriously and started to socialise it amongst our industries. Participant welfare people who look after the animal beautifully. Harness racing people love their animal, love their equine animal, but sometimes we forget about our people. They put years and years into this industry, and they've got wonderful stories of Ted Demler, Gavin Lang. They were here in the heady days when we were really at Moonee Valley, and some great racing, and those people help drive our sport. There's a lot of other people I haven't mentioned. I can go on for, you and I can go over 10 minutes talking about the heroes, Bruce Clark, Emmelite, all those eras, and I think it'd be a great gesture to think about what welfare looks like for our participants, whether we create a role to help people. If people are ill or something happens to them, just someone to talk to about how they can access government services, what our insurance looks like from an industry point of view, what our Sulky Fund looks like, how we can evolve all those things. So when people fall on bad times, we're here to help.
I did a talk, or I didn't do a talk actually, I sat down and worked it out. Jackie Barker, 1 week, she did just under 5,000 kilometres for the week. And a lot of people were proud, and I'm very proud of her, and I take my hat off to her. There was a few people that were saying, oh, that's crazy, she shouldn't do that many Ks. She's got a great family life, and she never did those Ks on her own. A lot of people will be thinking that she did, but they're probably the sorts of things that, as an industry, we've got to make sure that everyone's on top of, making sure, because there was some relevant points, people were saying, oh, that's ridiculous amount of Ks. I've got no problem. I'm quite comfortable that she did the Ks well and truly. She had her mum and she had friends driving her and shared cars. Yeah. But there's probably other participants doing similar at certain times, and we've got to be aware of that and of their own mental safety, but also just their safety on the roads and things along those lines as well.
Absolutely. We have to think about, as I said earlier, about the race program, when we race, how often we race, where we race geographically. We've got to think about how our participants respond to how we set our programming, because they're obviously working at home. Some have got jobs. Harness racing is a second income for them. So we've got to think about that a bit more holistically around what we can do for people so their mental health, how they get to meetings is safe. Because I remember Daryl Douglas in his younger days used to, very similar to Jackie Barker, used to drive miles from one race meeting to another. And when he was young, and you feel for those people because they want to make an impression in the sport, and they put themselves out there. And
they probably don't realise that there is tomorrow too. I think sometimes they say, well, I've got to take those drives and I've got to take those drives, and that's one of the things that perhaps, like a Johnny Caldo now that's in, I'll be in trouble saying the twilight of his career, but can probably sit back, because he's always done those long Ks, but he's seen he come out the other side, so it might be a little bit of driver education as well.
And I think this is a really good segue into this mentoring program. So Integrity are looking at a policy for mentoring programs, spoken to the Lance Justice of the Victorian Trainer and Drivers Association, and I think it's really, really important that we look at what that looks like going forward. Do we, like the jockeys, have jockey coaches? They have mentors to help young jockeys when they're in a steward's inquiry, what the protocols are when they've had a bad ride, and just pointing out issues to them. And I think we can do that much better in our sport, because we've got some amazing qualified people who've pretty much seen it all, and they can pass on that knowledge to the young people coming through.
I was blown away. I did Thursday for Trots, one of the shows we do with HRV, and we interviewed Chris Elford, and I knew he'd done a little bit with Jaden Barker, and that was the second time. So here's our state. He drives at every meeting, and it was the second time he'd ever been asked to help a junior out, and he's only willing to do it, and I think we've got to capitalise on that, that's for sure. One of the slogans you guys said tonight was "Under the Hood." I think you said it a couple of times, and then Luke Spanner was, as well. You've had your time. You've been here. You've had a good look under the hood. You're confident that some people say to me we're at the lowest ebb, like we're at rock bottom, and all the rest. Are you confident that we can turn a lot of this around?
There is a lot of opportunity. I see a great future for harness racing. There's so much opportunity, so many things that we can do. I haven't got enough hours in the day. And we'll be making some more announcements after the board meeting next week. Some exciting things coming. There's just opportunity everywhere. We're ripe for it. And I know people talk about the confidence is down, but confidence is a really interesting thing. It doesn't take much for people to get confident again, as long as they have a vision and they can see it. So it's my job and the executive and Harness Racing Victoria's job with the board to set a very clear vision and a clear pathway. And we're going to do that. So when people can see it and understand it, they'll invest in it, and then the confidence grows from there.
It's exactly right, and I must compliment you, and people probably say it's because you've got you in the camera, but I spoke to you at Board when we were going to do a follow-up, and we decided we would do it tonight because you wanted to make sure you had enough feedback and enough of the story out there. To be able to just keep getting this story out there is so paramount, isn't it? It's one of those things that everyone must do. Even like if you're trying to promote the sport, you should be promoting it and making it positive.
One of my main drivers is communication. So and I've learnt that over 20 years in thoroughbreds and harness racing, is that you've got to communicate to people. You've got to, don't assume people know.
Yep.
They probably don't. They probably missed a release or a paper release, or missed an email, or missed something on a website. You've got to keep telling the story so everyone understands what the vision is, everyone understands where we're heading, so it's clear. And I said, I think on the Hall of Fame night here when we first chatted, not everyone will like every decision we make. There'll be people that will have a view, and that's why we want discussion, we want differing points of view, but we'll make them for the betterment of the industry as a whole, and not for a certain sector. We'll make it to grow the industry collectively, so everyone gets a benefit.
And I think people should be aware, I don't like every meal Marie's going to cook me and all the rest. I mean, that's part of life, is not liking everything. Everyone wants it to be all one way and all the rest. Yeah. One thing I did like tonight, and a few people have filled it out, but the fact that there was question time if people wanted, but more or less you're inviting people to come and attend. I think you take your hats off to that. Luke's over there, he's got 4 or 5 people sitting there. I think the way you are doing this is great. I love the fact that you get to the trots. Dayle Monteith did Ballarat trots and Wedderburn, and I think just getting around there, I think a lot of people might watch this and say, oh, I never see them. Get out there, you guys are there, so get out and see them.
We were all at Elmore on Boxing Day. It was a great day.
Yeah,
great day.
It's got a little bit warm towards the end of the day, but you definitely did, and that's a great thing. Hunter Cup tomorrow night, mate, you looking forward to it?
Oh, look, what a cracking card tomorrow night. How good's the Trotters card?
Oh, I love it. And that's actually
great
one
Southern
thing
Star, amazing trotting race. Amazing trotting race.
Duncan McPherson generally watches most of mine. That Summer of Glory having an all trotters night as one. That is.
I think it's something we can look at, and it's something that will be part of our international strategies. Having a standalone trotting event, I think it's a must. I think it's something we can really highlight, because our trotting ranks in Victoria are so strong, and it's been a point of difference for us when you look at the other states. It really has. The trotting here, going back to Night Pistol, all those eras of previous times have been outstanding. So this is a great chance to highlight it again.
Unpopular, I am on the committee here at Bendigo, but I love the Aldebaran Park Murray Mile more than the Bendigo Cup, and I mean I just love the fact that these horses can go overseas. I mean, Sparkling Success almost did go overseas. They almost get invites. I think it's awesome. It would definitely work both ways.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am, and I'm sure Duncan McPherson is extremely excited. Mate, I will say thank you very much. Nice. APG Sales on Sunday, will we see you out there?
Luke Spano's going out from the team, so he'll be out there. We've got our team out there while we're around, so they'll come up and talk to them if you want to have a chat. My team will be there.
Very, very
and
good.
Luke Spano will be there.
Luke will be there. See them, come and see them, say hello to them, give them your ideas.
But, please bring your ideas, send them by email, because we want to have everything in by sort of end of February, early March, so then we can sit down and collate everything and then work out our strategic plan going forward and have that in place by April.
Consultation tour, you are next Friday. I know you're already at Kilmore because
Charlton on Monday.
Charlton this Monday coming. Yep. So everyone there at Charlton, right? Yep.
Great. And I was just trying to think where we are. I've got so much going on. Charlton Monday, and I think Maryborough on the 6th of Feb.
Yep.
Yeah, Feb.
And then, no, that should be Kilmore. Doesn't matter.
Kilmore, is it? Yeah, I haven't got it in front of me.
No,
but
sorry,
that's right.
I threw you under the bus. We can do that. That's the beauty of live TV. But no, thank you very much for your time. Great to see you at Bendigo, mate. And I think what you're doing is terrific. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.